Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the YouTube channel of Peter Silbermann Schule. Today we're going to be talking about the elements of style. Some elements of style, actually. And no, we're not talking about stylistic devices such as alliteration, anaphora, metaphor, etc., etc. No, we're talking about how you can improve your style of writing when, for example, asked to write an essay, either for homework or in an exam. And the question is, what is good style? What makes your text production interesting, convincing, compelling even? Well, and if you want to be a writer someday, you may even want to make your writing mesmerizing. But that is art. For starters, I've brought you a quote that I found in William Strunk's Elements of Style. Actually, William Strunk was a university professor. He taught English literature and writing. Okay? And he wrote the following passage. Vigorous writing is concise. A sentence should contain no unnecessary words, a paragraph no unnecessary sentences, for the same reason that a drawing should have no unnecessary lines and a machine no unnecessary parts. This requires not that the writer make all sentences short or avoid all detail and treat subjects only in outline, but that every word tell is meaningful. Don't bother about make, third person singular, make without S, treat, the same thing, and tell. He, she, it, das, es, muss, mit. That is the iron rule that every teacher gives you, right? Now, these three verb forms here are subjunctive. What the subjunctive is and when it is used, that shall be the subject of a later video. Okay. So, now that you know what this video is going to be about, and that is vigorous writing and concise writing, let's move to the first part, to the essentials. When you write an essay for homework or in an exam, you please want to use formal language. And informal language is reserved for private communication among friends and family members. So, here is what is acceptable in written text production and, well, other forms that are reserved for, let's say, SMS, short messages or so. Maybe email that you exchange when contacting family members and friends, okay? So the full forms are what you want to use in essays for homework and exams, such as there is, we have, do or does not, cannot, He would, she will, for, you, going to. These forms here, there's, we've, don't, doesn't, can't, he, she'll, for, you, gonna, by the way, forgot what this means, straight. I mean, I did not forget what this means. I only don't want to say this in public and here on YouTube. You may look this up and then you know what it means. It is slang, street slang. So, when we're talking about choice of words, then of course you want to use man instead of guy, and child, children instead of kid, kids. You want to use impressive instead of cool, and you want to use unacceptable or taboo instead of no-go. By the way, no-go is used in the phrase to be no-go. In German, people for some reason say no-go, das ist ein no-go. In English, something is no-go. No article, this is an adjective, this is not a noun. In German, we use this as a noun, but this is basically incorrect. If you want to use a noun meaning the same, something is a no-no. You can say something is a no-no or something is no-go. All right? So, just a second. And then we have to talk about a formal aspect. It is never a good idea to start writing somewhere in the upper left corner and then continue to write on and on and on and on until pages later you are either exhausted or have run out of ideas that you can possibly put down on paper. No. Please don't do that. For one reason, and this is the first and major reason, probably even you don't want to read any such concoction of words. And a text that never stops flowing along, and there is no interruption, there is no division into paragraphs. And now I'm telling you a secret. We teachers aren't particularly fond of such texts either. So, what can you do to make your writing not only look structured, but also look a little more pleasant to the eye? The answer is divide your essay into paragraphs. So dedicate one paragraph to your introduction, and then dedicate approximately 1 to 3 paragraphs to the main body. And when you are writing, let's say, a main body of 3 paragraphs, please dedicate 1 paragraph to one topic. And then there's going to be a last paragraph, and this is your conclusion in which you sum up your findings. You do not include new ideas, no new aspects that should have gone into the main body, let's say the analysis or so. The conclusion only sums up the findings that you discussed or analyzed previously, all right? And in between your paragraphs, there should be a space line. And now we have reached the terms of good writing. Use definite, specific, and concrete language. Anything vague can be left out because it isn't really meaningful. It doesn't tell your reader anything specific and probably anything interesting. So when you write such a sentence as, the weather was kind of unpleasant, what does that tell me? Oh, okay, unpleasant. Yeah, well excuse me. Shitty weather. Okay, no. Be as precise as this one. It rained every day, it was cold and stormy, and the reader knows, the weather was definitely unpleasant. And the reader also knows how and in which way it was unpleasant. And then put statements in positive form. I know when I ask students, a lot of them answer probably because it's easier to say what something is not. But when you say what something is not, the reader still doesn't know, well, what is the matter? And that is exactly what you want to tell the reader. You want to tell the reader what is the matter. So, again, I've brought you examples. The protagonist is not a friendly and amiable person. Okay, but that doesn't tell the reader how exactly he is an unfriendly person. And that is what is most interesting. Of course, as a reader, you want to know, well, what does he do to make him appear unfriendly and, let's say, disgusting or repulsive or whatever. Again, a positive example here. The protagonist is hard on his children and talks to his wife in an aggressive manner. You would agree he's not friendly and he's not amiable. So, but here you know what exactly makes him not friendly and not amiable. And before you characterize somebody using negations such as he's not honest, well, why don't you say he's dishonest? Or when you're talking about, let's say, the last 2 or 3 summers, and you say we didn't get enough rainfall, you might as well say, well, the east of Germany went through a period of drought. And instead of saying, oh, I didn't remember, you may as well say, I forgot. I forgot to close the windows before the rain. Much conciser than, oh, I didn't remember. Or when you wish to say that you didn't have much confidence, let's say, in a situation or in a person or so, then you may just as well say, well, I distrusted, let's say, my boss or the police or the business man who tried to talk me into buying this or that, yeah. Okay, and the next thing, prefer the active voice to the passive voice. The active voice is a lot more common and natural in English than it is in German. We Germans probably use the passive voice idiomatically in many more situations than English native speakers would use the passive. Whenever they can, they would probably use the active voice and prefer the active voice. The passive voice is only used in English when you don't know the agent. So the person doing something, or when it is completely unimportant. Of course, you would use the passive voice to say something like, the treaty was signed by, let's say, England or the United Kingdom and Germany. Because then the two people signing the treaty aren't important, need not be mentioned. But whenever you can, whenever you know the agent, please use the active voice. So such a sentence as this one, this letter was written to be by my father, is grammatically correct, but it is not idiomatic English. Idiomatic English is this one. My father wrote me this letter for my 25th birthday. Okay, so whenever you can, prefer the active voice to the passive voice. And something that we Germans love doing is we love to use would, may, maybe, maybe not, might, a little bit, eigentlich, irgendwie. Don't. Any such woulding, maying, maybeing, mighting, a little bitting, etc. is no go. Understand, these expressions are no go. Even though we love to do that. I would say that Hemingway is one of the leading writers of the 20th century. You would say, under what conditions would you say that? Would is used in if clauses. I would say, well, okay, say under what conditions you would say that. Don't would. I think Hemingway is one of the leading writers of the 20th century. If you don't think so, don't say it. If you think Hemingway is one of the leading writers of the 20th century, no need to use would. The situation was a little bit dramatic. A little bit dramatic? How's that? A little bit pregnant? How's that? Well, either it was dramatic or it wasn't dramatic. If it was dramatic, then it was dramatic, but it wasn't a little bit dramatic. If it was not dramatic, well, then it was harmless. But probably then the situation isn't even worth mentioning. Then you may not even need to talk about it at all. So, say what was happening, say whether it was dramatic or dangerous or harmless, but don't go little bitting here, okay? I know I'm now making up words that do not even exist in English. Sorry, there is no such word as wooding, maying, etc. I'm just making these words up to express how little love I have for such phrases. And believe me, I treat such phrases very ungraciously when grading your papers. Okay, so my students want to take this point excessively seriously and avoid any such things because I have very, very, very little love for such phrases. Next thing. You know that there are some verbs which are universally used in English, such as Schatz. Schatz. Okay, Schatz. Such as get, do, take, have, make, etc. Since there are probably 3.8 billion phrases that use these universally used verbs, I've brought you just a very, very, very small choice. Okay, let's have a look at this choice. And it would enlarge your vocabulary, and a large vocabulary always makes a good impression on your grading teacher. So if you do not always use gets and do's and haves and takes, but if you show that you also know different verbs and expressions, good for you. Might earn you credit points. So, get a letter. You may also say you receive a letter or a parcel. When somebody is getting old or tired, well, you can also say, my father is grown old, or I'm becoming tired now. Grow and become goes together with old very well, yeah? And become tired. Get money, earn money, of course. When you get a job, get a job, please. Matulat, would you please speak standard English? Get a job. You're not a ghetto kid. Okay, get a job. Find a job. Buy a shirt instead of get a shirt. Where do you get that shirt? Sorry, I'm probably speaking bad English again. Get a shirt. Where did you get that shirt? You may as well say, where did you buy this shirt? Get a cloth, get a doctor, fetch a cloth, and fetch a doctor. Get the flu or a headache, contract the flu, or suffer from a bad headache. To do Tokyo and New York. Well, yes, you hear people say that, but this is not very good style. Visit Tokyo, visit New York. Sounds great, doesn't it? Or to do a year, etc., for example, at college. Well, you may as well spend a year at college. Do drugs. Not much better than to be into drugs. Take drugs. Or, okay, in spoken language, you do the dishes, or you do a room. Yes, that's what you do. That's right. And in informal everyday language, you would probably rather do the dishes than wash the dishes, and do a room than clean a room. But since we're now talking about written language, in written language, you want to prefer wash the dishes and clean the room. To do it, last night we did it. Well, yes, you can say that, but in formal language, people have or had sex last night. To do away with, for example, slavery, use abolish. Great verb. Oh my God, now I'm beginning to talk like Donald Trump. Great. Yeah, fine verb. Yeah, very fine verb. To do someone down, to criticize someone, or to do a room over, to clean or decorate a room again. Now we are approaching syntax. Express coordinate ideas in similar form. So, if you wish to emphasize a statement, if you really want to make a point of something, you want to use a parallel construction. I've brought you this example here. Formerly, science was taught by the textbook method, while now the laboratory method is used. There's nothing wrong with the sentence. The grammar is fine, the language is fine, only, why a change of structure here? Why not use a parallel structure and parallel syntax in order to make the point that in former times something was done this way, today it is done a different way. So here, formerly, science was taught by the textbook method. Today, it is taught by the laboratory method. I know a lot of students think, well, but variation of syntax and variation of style always leaves a good impression on the reader. Yes, that's right. I mean, I'm not asking you to write a complete essay using parallel structures. No, of course, you want to use a variety of style or even stylistic means, rhetoric means, and syntactical means. Yes, that's right. You want to use a variety, but sometimes it makes a very good point using the same parallel structure for a statement. All right, so again, we are here with parallel expressions. These are is an enumeration. And look at this. The Germans, the Austrians, Swiss and French. No way. So, when you have an enumeration of, let's say, such elements, and there is the definite article going along with it, then you have two ways of making this enumeration making it correct and good style. Either you use this definite article once before the first element that is enumerated, The Germans, Austrians, Swiss, and French. Or you do it this way. The Germans, the Austrians, the Swiss, and the French. Yeah? These two are good English. This one is not good, and I would even think it may be considered incorrect. The same goes for preposition. In spring, in summer, autumn, and winter. No go. In spring, summer, autumn, and winter. Good. In spring, in summer, in autumn, and in winter. Super. Great. Use that. Now, here we are now approaching another point. Expressions like both and, not but, either or also require the same grammatical construction. Look at this sentence. It was both a long ceremony and very tedious. This sounds like the author of this sentence thought of, it was long. Oh, yeah, and tedious also, right. It was both a long ceremony and very tedious. Doesn't sound good. Unelegant style. But what you can say is the ceremony was both very long and tedious. This is good style. This is bad style. A time not for words but action. No good style. May sound great to you, and you may think nothing to object to. Oh yes, there is something to object to. Small, but here. A time not for words, but for actions. And guess what? I have to upsala. A time not for words, but for action. So this preposition here has to be repeated. Okay? And this one, either you believe him or turn him into the police. You read this structure all over the place. I even found this in a dictionary. But no, it is not elegant style. Either or goes